Hello, welcome to Board Game Bonkers. This is a quick fire review. We're going to take a look at 5 different board games. First, we're going to take a look at Death Valleys. So these reviews are where we can't actually fit them all into one review because they're just too short. So we're going to take a look at them in the small short form, and then I'll be giving them a final rating. I won't be going through all the pros and cons, just giving you a very brief overview of them. So let's first take a look at Death Valley and see how it plays. So in Death Valley, you'll be acquiring cards to put into your journey here or your scrapbook. Now, it's important to note that any cards in your journey, which is here at the top row, you will score points that indicate in the card by the number of stars. So this is worth 2 points, for example, and any cards that state an ability that may give you additional points. Any cards in your scrapbook, you will not score any points with indicated stars, but you may score points if the ability indicates. For example, this one, the Mosaic Canyon. The canyon states that, well, if I can get this up, 1 point for each type of hazard in your scrapbook. So these are known as hazards, as you can know. What you're trying to do is avoid being bust as well, because at the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more of the same hazard type symbol, you will go bust. And then you'll have to wipe out your whole journey. I'll explain that in just a second. So here you have a draw pile. This is your desert. You have 1 card that's flipped over, and you have 2 actions that you can take on your turn. The first one is to travel. So you choose either card in the desert. That's one that's face up and the one that's face down. And then you'll be putting that card into your journey. The second action that you can do, so you have a choice of only one of them, is rest. So that's moving one of your cards from your journey into your scrap. And as well as that, doing that, you can also tuck cards under others if the ability tells you. For example, this card here. So the Devil's House, it tells me that I get 4 points for every 2 cards hidden underneath this card. So as an action, instead of taking one of these cards, I may choose to move this from my journey into my scrapbook. It's important that you place cards from the leftmost position. When I move a card, I'm going to slide this along to close the gap. I'm then going to choose as an additional option, I can choose not to. The ability allows me to tuck cards under. So I could take these 2 cards and I can tuck them underneath. I'll then slide this to the leftmost position in my scrapbook. And what that'll do, that'll then end my turn, and I'll be able to look at whether I've gone bust by looking at any 3 same types or more of hazards. In this case, I haven't. But if I didn't tuck those cards underneath, so let's just say I moved my card, I didn't tuck them underneath, as you can see, I would go bust because there are 3 symbols of the same type. So what that means is that I would have to scrap this row. So I take the rightmost card, I put it face down into my discard pile here. I take any remaining cards in my journey, and then shuffle them if I had more than one, and I place it in the bottom of the desert pile. And that's how that essentially works. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get as many points as possible in your journey, which is up here. So the other action I mentioned that you could take in your turn, you can only take one of the 2, which is travel, taking one of these cards or this one, and then resting, which is the one I just showed you, to move a card from your journey into your scrap. So as I travel, I could take a card and then place it in my left most available position in my journey. And then I can carry out the ability if it allows me at that point. This ability, the Scorpion, says 2 points for each mountain adjacent to this card. Adjacent means up, down, left, or right. I've got a mountain here. So at the end of the game, if this stays in this position, it's going to give me an additional 2 points. So I may want to keep this in that position. And then it'll be the next player's turn. So remember, only one of the 2 actions, either travel or rest, and then you'll be checking the end of your turn if you've gone bust by looking at the symbols, if you've got 3 or more of the same. In this case, I haven't, and then it'll proceed to the next player's turn. And then you'll be scoring up the points in the game. Any points with indicated stars in your journey, here for example, and any additional points that abilities give you. And in your scrapbook, you do not get points for stars. Remember, you only get points if the ability indicates them below. And who's got the most points at the end of the game is the winner. So there we go, that's Death Valley. So it's a really good little card game. I really like how you've got two different roles. So you've got your kind of your journey where you're just going your points, and then you've got your scrapbooks. You're trying to work out which card you're going to put in your scrapbook, because certain abilities will give you points you want to put into your scrapbook. Perhaps you've only got 1 star, but the ability might give you 3 points if you've got particular cards adjacent to it. And you're also working out which ones to keep in your journey, the ones with the ones that got most stars in them. So I really like that little puzzle. And obviously when you take a card and you move it from your journey into your scrapbook, you then slide the cards from right to left, and that fills that gap. So that will change the order, particularly as an ability says, if a card's adjacent to this, then you'll get 2 extra points, for example. So I really like that little puzzle element, but it's not overly thinky. Now you have 2 basic actions to take, and it's only one of them. You get to choose one of them. So you can either take a card and place it into my journey, or I can move a card from a journey into my scrapbook. So I really like that. When you move a card as well into your scrapbook, you're then deciding you can tuck cards underneath. So perhaps you've got too many cards of a particular symbol and you want to get rid of some before the end of your turn, because if you have 3 or more of the same symbol, then you'll be scrapping that journey and starting back all over again, losing potentially vital points. So I really like that. It's a very short game. It's only 18 cards. And this, like, it comes in a small wallet. So it tucks in really nicely, and you can take this in your travels everywhere. It's one of the better games. We've got a bit of set collection, so you're trying to, well, not really set collection, points. You're trying to get most points, but you're also trying to work out in terms of those symbols, the hazards, and you're trying to avoid getting too many of the same type. So there's a little bit of push your luck there. And I like that you can have 2 different elements of scoring: what's on the cards by the points stars, or what's in the abilities and what they state. So it's a cool little card game. I really enjoy this. One I'd recommend. I'm going to be giving this a strong 7 out of 10. Check it out. That's Death Valley. So next up, we're going to have a look at Love Letter. So this is a classic, and there's many different formats that have come out. You've got Batman and Cthulhu. Now, for me, the Cthulhu one's probably the best one, but this is the classic version. I've got the travel version in this as well. So it comes with a travel one. So there we go. And you've got a little bag here if you prefer the small travel version, or you can have the box like this. So you'll be having a card in your hand, you'll be picking up another card and then playing a card to activate its ability. So let's have a look and see how it plays. In Love Letter, the objective of the game is to get 7 tokens. Well, they're actually cubes, which is affection cubes shown towards the princess. So what will happen, each player will have 1 card in their hand. So this is set up for 2 players, this is. So player 1 has the guard and player 2 has the handmaid. Now you've got a nice clever reference sheet here. It'll tell you what all the cards do. And you have a draw pile as well. So on the player's turn, they will take 1 card. So player 1, for example, may take this card, and they will look at their cards, and then will decide which 1 card to play against the other player. So in this case, I've got the guard. So I can choose another player, okay, and then I can guess what that player may have in their hand, because I only have 1 card, remember, unless it's their turn to draw up to 2. And then I can guess what that card is with the guard. So I may, for example, play this card and then guess and say, have they got the king? And if they haven't, then it proceeds to the next player. I then keep this other card in my hand. The next player will then draw up to 2, and they'll look at their hand and they might go, right, okay, so for this card, I can secretly compare hands so other players don't see, just between us 2. Or, until the next turn, I can ignore all effects. I may play this. So what that means is, when the other player plays an effect, this card voids it. And then we'll be proceeding like that, clockwise, keep continuing until one of the players is out. What that means is, if you can guess right, or you can eliminate or discard the card that they've got in their hand out, then they're out of the round. For example, if I played the guard card and I guessed that the other player had the Baron, then they would discard that card into the discard pile and they're out of the round, and then before that player would win an affection token. You'll keep playing like so until somebody has 7 affection tokens. So let's have a look at some of these abilities. So the princess, you lose if it's discarded out of your hand. The countess, you discard if you're caught with a king or princess. You want to try and avoid getting the king or princess. The king, you can trade hands with another player. The prince, 1 player discards his or her hand. The handmaid, you get protection until your next turn. That's one we just played. And the baron, you compare hands. So the lower a person with the lowest card is out. Remember, you play a card first and you compare what's in your hand. You'll just have the one card in your hand, remember. The priest, you look at another player's hand, you choose one, and in the guard you guess what the other player may have. It's very straightforward. You just continue like so until finally somebody has 7 affection cubes. So there we have it. That's Love Letter, and it's a nice little card game. This, if you're used to classic card games, this won't feel too much of a step up. It's in fact, some classic card games have a bit more strategy, more depth than perhaps Love Letter. But I like how streamlined this is. You simply play a card and you're trying to figure out what the opponent's got in their hand to get them to eliminate that card to then acquire affection tokens or those little cubes. So I really like that. It's fairly straightforward, it's streamlined, the abilities are quite basic. You know, you look at another player's hand, or you can guess what the other player might have in their hand. You can trade hands as well. There's some cards that if you get caught with a particular card, then you're out of the round. So I really enjoy that. It's really quite straightforward, streamlined in how the game plays. Now, I played this with all different player counts, and I much prefer it with smaller player counts because in a higher player count, for me, it just takes too long to play. I also feel there's too many affection tokens to get. You have to try and get obviously the majority of them, and obviously in a 2-player, that's 7 affection tokens you need to get, at least more than the other player. I just feel that it goes on a little bit too long for what it is. So we tend to halve the number of affection tokens, and that seemed to play a lot better, quicker time for what I feel the game is. And you can play this in about 15 minutes, but I've seen the game going much longer than a higher player count. It's taken 45 minutes to play, which is way too long for what I want. I want this to be a quick 10-15 minute game, and halving the number of affection tokens you need to collect makes it that possible. But I like it's in a small box. It's a good quality box as well. The cards are easy to understand. The artwork's quite nice as well in it. They've done a good job to package this together. I'm going to be giving Love Letter a strong 7 out of 10. I really like this game. I think they've done a good job, and I hope they bring out perhaps some various different versions. The cooler version for me is the one pick I would go for over this, but the classic is still one that's worthwhile. A 7 out of 10 from Board Game Bonkers. So let's move on to the next one, and that is Linky. So this game here is a quiz game. So you'll have quiz cards in there, and what you'll be doing is you'll be giving questions to the opponent. You can play in teams, or you can play individually, and you will be giving them 4 questions that will give them clues, and they'll be trying to figure out from those clues what the link is between those 4 to then get the final answer, which will then acquire that card, and you're trying to spell it Linky. So let's have a look and see how it plays. In Linky, players or teams you can play in will be drawing a card from the box here, and what you'll be doing is you'll be asking them each of the 4 clues to give them and try and figure out what the final answer is. So for example, you'll be saying, okay, so number 1 is, a young cat is called a what? And the other player's got a team has got to guess what that is. You then go to number 2, give them that. So in the UK, we say senior school. In America, they say what school? And then you go into the 3rd one, and then the 4th, you don't give them the answers. And then they've got to find out what the link is with all of those answers. In this case, it's types of heel. If they're struggling, you can give them a clue. So the answer is under your foot, for example. And if they get that correct, they get one of the letters and they'll place it in front of them. And what we're going to try and do is spell out Linky. So when you spell out Linky, you've then won the game. Now there's a couple other rules. You can trade out 2 of your cards. So for example, say you had several ends, you could discard 2 of them for an opponent to discard 1 of their cards. The other option is you can discard 3 of your own to then get any 1 card of a particular letter. It's up to you where you want to play with those rules, but they're called trading rules that are in the game. Aside from that, whoever spelled out Linky is the winner, and you can play single or you can play in teams. It's entirely up to you. And you've got a little score pad here as well for jotting down your scores, your answers, etc. Well, not your scores, your answers, just to kind of help you out in case you're getting a little bit confused or you need something to visually see. And that's pretty much it. There isn't much else in. There's a few other different stacks. There's plenty of questions here. This is the 1st edition. Of course, there's other editions as questions get updated. So there we have Linky. I quite like this. Now, I'm not a huge fan of quiz games. In fact, I'm absolutely hopeless with trivia. But this one I like is a little bit different than others. Not rolling the dice, going around the board, trying to get the exact number to land in a specific space. This, I'm just picking up a card, and I really like what's unique about it is the 4 questions you get, and you can try and find a link. And what that link is going to give you the main answer that you need to acquire that card. I really like that. I'm not a fan of the other rules that are in the game. You know, you discard a couple of cards to an opponent, then gets rid of a card that they've got. I don't like that. I know you can discard 3 of your own cards to get any card of one that you like. That's fine, but I don't like that kind of take that element of it. You can kind of play with it, those rules. We don't generally play with those, but I like that this quiz game. Now, yes, the cards may go out of date. I've got the first edition, and of course you need to acquire more cards, but I still feel these cards aren't that outdated. I'm quite happy with the first edition. I'm not going to be updating this. I like as it is, and now and again I'll be pulling this out, perhaps festive season, Christmas time, or perhaps I want a very light kind of party style game. Well, I might bring this out. I really enjoy this for what it does. The questions are great. It just gives a little twist in a standard quiz. I really enjoy that. I would recommend checking this out. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. It's kind of a bit above average, and it's good for what it is. We've done a good job to keep a kind of classic style quiz game a little bit more exciting. So let's move on to our next one, and that is Cluster. This is quite a heavy box because it's got magnets inside. What we're going to be doing is putting magnets in within a string that's in a circle. Let's go and check it out and see how it plays. In Cluster, what you'll be doing is taking one of these magnets. Each player will have the same number of magnets. So you have a type of magnets in your hand, and what you'll be doing is you'll be placing a magnet in this circle here within the string. Now, a couple of things to bear in mind. As soon as you place one down, you can't take it off, but you can move it around. You can also move the string, but again, you can't take the magnet off. So as soon as you place it down, it's got to stay there. You can move it around. For example, I could do this and move the string, as long as I don't move any other magnets in the string. So if this was here, well, I've got to make sure I don't move the other ones. I could do that if I wanted, for example. Or I could maybe move it here. As long as I don't take it off, as soon as I've got it down, I'm then going to let go and take it off. What I'm going to try and do is avoid putting it too close to other magnets. If they ever cluster together, so for example, if I put one here, this one's moving the magnet away, those others will cluster it towards you. So if I ever cluster any magnets, I've got to take them back into my hand, and then it proceeds to the next player. Now, once all players have managed to place these down, whoever does it first, it gets all the magnets out of the hand, is the winner. And this is essentially how you play. So there we have it, Cluster. I quite like this for how streamlined and simple it is. I mean, you can't get more simpler than sticking some magnets on a table, and that's pretty much all you're doing. Now, some magnets will push the others away, some will pull it, so you're trying to work out which magnets will do what. You can kind of figure that out over time, but this is a really quick 5-minute game, and the kids seem to enjoy this, certainly a lot more than myself. But it's not a game you can take in the plane because it's magnets and it weighs quite a bit, but you can take this anywhere and set it up on any table. It's really straightforward and very basic gameplay, but it is a lot of fun. You can play a few of these games within, easy 5 to 10 minutes. You probably knock out 2 to 3 games easy. So it's quick, fun. I'm going to be giving this a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, but if you're looking for something a little bit more tactile and perhaps a little bit more of using your motor skills, well, let's check out the next one. That is Tinder Blocks. I was going to call it Tinker. It's not. Tinder Blocks. So this is the night version. You also have a day version. What we've been doing is building our camp. So let's see how it plays. In Tinker Blocks, this is the night version of a day version. In the night version, we'll be building a campfire. You choose either one of these sides. So let's just say we go with this. We'll start by setting the foundations, like so. Then on the player's turn, they'll flip over a card, and then they'll try and build this and place it into the camp like so by using the tweezers. So for example, I have to take this out of the box first, so the tin, so once I've done that, I've got to try and build this. So for example, I may choose to do this, which is going to be awkward. I can't use my fingers, and this may take a while. There we go. And then I've got to try and get this one on top. And then I've got to try and get it on with the tweezers. So I may do something like this. If it ever falls, then I'm out of the game. So I'm going to try and do that without the collapse of the fire. Players will continue clockwise, taking a card, and then building it like so and putting it back on to the fireplace. Now, if a card ever shows a hand, that means you get to use your weak hand. In this case, I'm going to use my left because I'm right-handed to try and build. I'll try and place that into the camp like so. So I may do that, and I may do this to put it onto the fire. And we'll keep doing that until there is one player remaining. That player then wins the game. You make sure you shuffle these. There's lots of different cards, as you can see. Got different types. So it looks like fire. So you've got your wood, you've got your fire cubes here. And as you can see, you've got some with the hands to show the weakest hands got to be used. This does feel a little bit flimsy. It slides a bit, especially at the edges. What we noticed was the closer you've got your, well, it could be cheating, your fingers nipped to it, the much easier it is. But that could be cheating. Like there, it's a lot more tougher. If you squeeze it too hard, there you go, it flies off. So there we have it, tinder blocks. Now this is a small little tin, as you can see, and it's quite difficult when you're building the camp because when you're holding the pieces with the tweezers, they are quite flimsy, those tweezers, and if you press them too hard, because the pieces are really smooth, they ping off. That can be quite frustrating. What we notice is the closer you've got your fingers to the piece you're picking up, so if it's whether it's a small cube or whether it's a long cube, makes no difference. As long as you clamp it close as possible, your fingers are on the tweezers, then it won't ping off. Now, you may consider that cheating, so you can play it either way. The normal way, where you keep your fingers at the end of the tweezers, or you can position them wherever you like. But they do ping off, and it's quite difficult to pinch the pieces because they slide off a lot, but you could try and build that fire camp. And I really like on the card you can use your weak hand as well, because that just mixes up a little bit. The start of the fire camps isn't varying that much. You've got one card that flips on either side. The start of it setup's pretty much the same every time. I would have liked a bit more variation with that. And I think as well, I would have liked a little bit more variation with the game, because simply you're just building a fire camp. It's very dexterity, tactile. Now, the kids actually like this. When we're taking this on holiday, it's really compact. The kids have asked to bring this out on the board because it's a quick 5-minute game, and it gives them some entertainment while they're waiting on something else. So it's fine for that. For, maybe you're looking for a game to take away and you want something that's very light, and any kid can play this and pick this up. Yes, I might get a bit frustrated as you're picking up those cubes with the tweezers, because like I say, they slide off and ping off quite a bit, which is a bit frustrating, but you can let them pinch it closer to where the cube is, and that'll help them. But this is a good little game. It's not bad. I'm going to be giving this a 6 out of 10. So there we go. That's our quick fire reviews, 5 board games. We hope you enjoyed this. And if you want to see more content like this and do more quick fire reviews for small games, then please let us know in the comments down below. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can be notified for more content like this. And until next time, my name's Jay Sears. Take care.